here with Principal Schaefer, Dr. Remka, and Jill Pillagallerani, our Director of Student Support Services. We are here this evening to discuss the reorganization of the elementary schools. I'd like to start by welcoming everyone and letting you know that you can submit your questions to us and we will try to answer them as best as possible. I'd also like everyone to know Dr. DeFalco will be joining us at a later point. He is in a school committee meeting right now and is indisposed. I also would like to start by just laying out an outline for what this is about. So we are going to be speaking tonight about the reorganization of the elementary schools, which is connected to the regional agreement, which was just passed at both town meetings. I want to be clear to the audience that this session is not about us transitioning into a full remote learning environment. We recently announced that, and I know that there are some questions. If you do have questions pertaining to that, please feel free to reach out to the superintendent or to your principal. This evening, I will address a little bit about it, but as we move forward, I'm not going to be entertaining questions, nor will the principals regarding to the transition to full remote. So I know people are wondering what's happening and why we made this decision. We are going to be transferring to full remote starting this Thursday. Recently, the number of cases of COVID has increased dramatically in our two communities, and we've been seeing that in our schools as well. Just last week, through this weekend, we had 14 new cases diagnosed, and we are beginning to struggle with staffing the classrooms and providing coverage, and a lot of our students and families are quarantined. That's the reason why we've decided to go full remote prior to the Christmas break. Our hope is that we can stop people from getting sick because we don't want that for the holidays. On the tail end, when we are returning from Christmas break, we also are going to be fully remote through January 8th. The reason for this is we are very well aware that people are going to socialize and be about on Christmas and through the holidays, and we understand that. We certainly hope that it will be kept to a minimum, but we do understand that that is going to potentially be the case, and we have built in this small buffer to try to make sure that after the holidays, everyone has a bit of time to self-isolate, make sure that they're well prior to coming to the district. Our hope is that we are being proactive and we will stop a large-scale spread of the virus and allow everyone to enjoy their Christmas break and come back to school for the long run when we do return on January 11th. Again, if there are other questions, please feel free to reach out to the superintendent or your principals. For this evening, I am going to kick the show off to Dr. Remka and Christina Schaefer, the principal at Millville Elementary and at the complex.
Good evening. As you know, the reorganization, the regional agreement was passed first at Millville and then Blackstone. So we have met several times we were tossing ideas of, what grade level should be in Millville and what grade level should be in Blackstone. We have a proposed plan. It is a 3-year plan, including this year. Kindergarten, as you know, already at Millville. So this is our first year. So Millville currently have pre-K, kindergarten through 5. And next year, our plan is to have pre-K, K, and 1 over at Millville, and grade 2, 3, 4, 5 over at Blackstone. And the reason behind it is our current first graders who are at Blackstone, it doesn't make sense for us to move those first graders to Millville and then the following year moving them back to Blackstone as third graders. So we are going to keep the second grade in Blackstone. So next year, Blackstone will be 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Millville, 2nd to 5th grade, will also move to Blackstone. And then the following year, 2nd grade will, which is now they would be current kindergarten next year, first grade, and the second grade in 2022 and 23 will remain in Millville. So Millville in 2022-23 will be a pre-K to 2 school, and Blackstone will be grade 3 to 5. Christina, do you want to add to it?
Nope. And I know some of the things that were discussed in the last Facebook Live were, the reasoning for choosing Millville Elementary as the early childhood school was that the school's farther off the road. So with the JFK AFM Elementary Playground, that is only separated from Lincoln Street and Mendon Street by the the metal barrier on the road. And Millville's obviously set up further up the road off the main road, and the playground's closer, way off the main road, off the parking lot in our school. So that was one of the reasons discussed, as well as the fact that our early childhood is already there with pre-K and K already being at Millville this year. So we figured that that would be the easiest transition and move for the students. We also did send out the survey with the plan to the families, and have had pretty similar experience to what we found in the original survey. Some strongly against it, and majority are all for it.
We also, just a point of information, we introduced this idea to the school committee on December 10th, and there will be a public hearing of this on December 17th. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. But right now, we wanted to give this opportunity to everyone to ask questions. We will try to answer them as best as we can and see if we can take care and alleviate any fears that people might have.
One piece I do want to mention, just in case people haven't been following along, is that in the survey, one of the concerns was the starting time. So we did talk about adjusting the starting time so they weren't exactly the same, because obviously currently both Millville Elementary and the JFK AFM complex are the exact same schedule. And I know parents mentioned concerns about being able to get kids to both schools at the exact same start time. So that is definitely something that was talked about and considered, and the times will be adjusted so that it will minimally impact both schools, but the parents will also be able to easily transport back and forth between the schools if they choose to pick up or drop off their child.
To that point, Christine, I'll just jump in. I have been discussing that situation with Neil Telstone, who helps with the transportation for the district. At this point, it does look like we're going to be able to split the difference between the schools. So the hope is that Blackstone will start 5 to 10 minutes earlier, and Millville will start about 5 to 10 minutes later. The plan is to have the buses similar to what we do at the high school and middle school. We're going to have the buses run their routes, and then they will drop off at Blackstone and then drop off at Millville. That's why the delayed start time. And that should also give enough time for parents to get through whatever drop off or pickup line and get to the other building. Jill, do we have any questions coming in yet?
We do not have any questions coming in yet.
I also want to add to the drop-off time. Some parents are concerned if they have kids in Blackstone, they drop off the kids. Do they have enough time to go to Millville? And we did toss around the idea of having Blackstone open the door earlier for parent drop-off.
We just did have one question come in, and someone had asked, will transportation still be at no cost since we're, transporting different towns?
Yep, absolutely. The transportation will remain at no cost. We are a regional district, and regional transportation is provided to every student in the district at no cost.
It's quiet out there. No other questions yet.
We must have answered all of the questions on the first Facebook Live.
There also is a slight delay from us, so.
So while we're waiting for questions, I can also let everyone know like the average class size. In K, you know, we kind of go by last couple of years, the enrollment. We're looking at between 21 to 22 students in the class. And grade 1 will be about 22 to 23. And grade 2 is about 21 to 22. And grade 3 is 22 to 24 students in the class. Grade 4 is 21 to 22, and same as grade 5. And the reason I'm saying that is one of the reasons that we want to reorganize both elementary school is we want to provide fair and equitable education to your child. So thinking about the class size is balanced. And if we don't reorganize the grade level, Millville would have next year grade 5, 31.
30, one of them's got 34. 4 and 5 have 31 and 34 for next year. So we have, it would be large class sizes. Right. And also the other thing with specials, so providing equal specials, because right now the Millville students have technology every week, and the complex students do not all have technology every week. And I think PLCs this year is a little more equitable, but professional learning communities for the staff. So providing that equitable time for staff to have together to discuss students and data and planning and all that stuff that goes along with it.
And we had mentioned, oh, I'm sorry, Jill.
No, go ahead. That's okay.
I was just going to say, we had mentioned on our earlier Facebook Live, but there may be people joining us. So it's great that Dr. Remke and Ms. Schaefer are sharing this information. We see ebbs and flows in the population of both communities. And this transition into a model where all of the students are split across both buildings and are working together in the grade levels will really allow us to be equitable with not just the staff, but all of the resources that we provide to these students for the instructional time that the teachers have, the specials like Ms. Schaefer mentioned, and essentially every other resource that the district has to try to help the students engage in their learning. So it really is a wonderful thing that we're looking to do and make sure that we're providing everything that these kids need.
Mm-hmm. We do have a question, but before we get to that, it's about the meeting. I just wanted to see if Jenny and Christina, one of the questions in the past had been about, you know, making a smooth transition. Would there be differences going to the buildings? Maybe you can talk a little bit. Like I said, I have one question waiting, but maybe you can kind of just talk a little bit about how you already work together, you know, to assist that transition when our kids, you know, are separate, and, you know, how you're already working as a team with our staff.
So first we start with Christina and I. We talk almost every day, sometimes too many times. We plan together. We even send email out together at the same time. So our staff is really planning. We give them every opportunity to plan together by grade level. We do our professional development together and our curriculum hours and faculty meeting. Most of our faculty meeting are together. We even this year roll our school improvement plan together because we want to streamline everything. We no longer want fifth grade student going to middle school. Oh, you're from Millville and you're from Blackstone. No, these students are from Blackstone Millville School. So this is important to us that we are working all together as one team.
And also our instructional leadership team merged this year as well. So we have an elementary instructional leadership team. So both schools work together. Because our school improvement plan together, everything else is together. They plan the PD together, the professional development together. So just continuing to do everything together has been huge this year too.
One of the questions that came up, Matt, I know you mentioned that we have an upcoming meeting that will be an opportunity for the community to comment. But one of the questions was, with the increase of COVID, do we know if the meeting is there going to be a remote meeting, or are we anticipating, you know, in person because of things that are going on?
Yep, that's a great question. So we did reach out to the boards of health and consult with them as to whether or not it would be feasible to have in-person meetings. And unfortunately, given the circumstances right now with the numbers of COVID in both communities, the boards of health have directed us to have this meeting and the public hearing virtually. That information for the login and how to view and how to submit statements or questions will be advertised prior to the meeting.
I also want to add this year, we already, like, not only kindergarten is over Millville, we also mixed some of our grade level. All the remote students are actually instructed by the complex teachers. And I have a couple of grade 3 students at the complex because of the space. And Millville, Christina took over grade 1 to grade 1, grade 2. So they kind of like, I'm watching the 2 grade 3 students. They really situated in Blackstone at the complex very well. So
and the same for the students that are at Millville. In addition, our kindergarten students are all mixed together. So Blackstone and Millville students are together for kindergarten, both remotely with our kindergarten teacher, as well as in person is Blackstone and Millville students. You don't know who goes on what town, other than this year we have a kindergarten bus for Blackstone. So I do know when those kids go on the bus who goes to Blackstone and who goes, but other than that, you wouldn't know what town the kids live in.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have another question come in, and we talked a little bit about the timing in the morning being 5 minutes. But, you know, this question came in, and it's actually a great question, that if there's only that small difference of time at drop off in the morning, how will that be addressed in the afternoon?
So to clarify, we're looking at changing each of the schools' time by 5 to 10 minutes. So Blackstone would move somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes down, and Millville will move somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes up. And that would create somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes of difference between the starting and ending times of the schools. Neil Telstone and I have driven on the bus and ridden the routes, and we've also gone back and forth between the 2 buildings on the buses. And that should be plenty of time to get all of the buses from one building to the other building, as well as enough time for parents to go through either a pickup or a drop-off line, get their student, and then move on to the next building.
So Jenny and Christina, because I know I've had the pleasure of being out there in the afternoon for the pickup, as well as the morning drop-off. So do you think we'd be able to, with this time difference, that will be able to be, how we're doing the pickup at the afternoon? Because I know sometimes that takes a little bit. How do you think that would run? Do you think that time would work?
Our average total pickup time from start to finish is between 10 to no more than 15 minutes. And I know today was a little different because a lot of parents are picking up students because of we're sending, their crates home. So it was different today. So we can't count today. Normally we're really from 10 to no more than 15 minutes.
And in Millville, the boiler project is almost done. So our pickup time should speed up too, because this year we do have something abnormal because we have a lot more parents dropping off and we have a few more buses this year. So everything's going through the front loop. So it is taking a little bit longer, but when we have that back, the side of the building open where the boiler project is happening now, it does move the traffic much faster. So we do not have the buses and the cars having to compete for the same loop. So that will definitely speed it up as well.
I don't see any new questions coming in at this point. I'll give it another minute. I don't see any questions coming in right now, but maybe Christina, if you could also mention, I know our kindergarten teachers this year had actually commented on the fact that they actually enjoyed being there in Millville with our preschool teachers,
Right.
rather than the transitioning over. So
So I think there were a couple key pieces that the kindergarten teachers mentioned. They really enjoyed having their entire grade together to be able to, collaborate together, discuss student data, plan together. So they had the entire complement from both schools together, which was nice. They also mentioned the fact that they liked being able to go down the hall and talk to the preschool teachers if they had a question versus, in the past, it's when they were at the JFK AFM complex, they were, emailing, finding a time that they could coordinate to talk or having to meet with each other. So they found it a little more challenging, but now they can go right down the hall and chat with the preschool teachers about any students that were in our programs in preschool. So that's been very beneficial. And our preschool teachers can go visit their kids from last year too, and say hi. And it's a nice transition for the kids because they didn't leave Millville, so they just went to another room.
and I'm guessing it would be the same in Millville. We've had singleton teachers in specific
Correct.
grades. So I'm sure, joining together, you'll have some grades there. There won't be the singletons. I know that you did say we're doing a lot together as ILT and PLC, but, teachers will actually be together in the same building, being able to share those ideas.
Right. And it is a little more challenging this year to be able to, any year, to be able to get them all in the same schedule. But we have tried to move stuff around a couple times to make sure that they do have, if we need to discuss with everybody together, we are able to meet with both schools together. So that's been helpful too. And it also gives the time for the teachers during the day because, this year, obviously, with having to be in the same step, like lockstep with their planning, they're meeting a lot of hours after school to, make sure that they're all coinciding with their planning and they're not too far off from each other so that if there were any quick shifts that they could handle that if we had to move students around. So that's been helpful. And it will also, show them that we honor their time and give them some time together.
There were a couple of other points that I wanted to make. Not sure how many people have followed the budgeting process, but last year we requested this and we intend to request this again. We are really looking to get a early elementary teaching and learning coach in place. And we would like to have that individual at Millville specifically to work with the pre-K through second grade students and teachers. That is a hope of ours so that we can have early elementary and a specialist working with grades 3 through 5. Again, that is in the works, we certainly hope, but it's something that we'll be pushing for. Additionally, I wanted the community to know that we've spoken to every group of teachers that will be impacted by this transition. And I will defer to Dr. Remka or Mrs. Schaefer, but I was at a number of those meetings and I can say that while some people were a little hesitant that they might have to move, everyone was overwhelmingly supportive of the process and really acknowledged that this would be the very best thing to do for kids and that they were excited about this taking place, despite whether or not they had to move some of their stuff.
Yes, we had, due to obviously the shift today for Millville going full remote and, the complex bearing down for their full remote for their gold cohort, we did move the specialist meeting. So we are meeting with all specialists on Thursday morning at 8:15. But we have, nobody's come up to express any major concerns about the plan.
We did have a couple of new questions come in. I think some of them we may not yet have the answers because, again, we just proposed this model. But Jenny, one of the questions was, about which grades will be on the JFK side, which will be on the AFM side. And of course, this would impact the parent kick-up. Like I said, it's probably a little bit too early to answer that, but that was one of our questions. I didn't know if you wanted to respond at all or.
It is too early to answer that question, but since second grade will be at the complex, so my intention is to keep second grade where they at right now, on the JFK side.
And there was kind of a follow-up question to that. Is there a more efficient way for the afternoon pickup for the 3+ It says at JFK, such as making a line that parents can't pull out of or turn around in.
So I assume the question is for grade 3 to 4 and 5.
That's what I,
Because in the AFM side, we don't have that loop like the JFK. So they kind of pull in and they park and wait for their kids. I am working on, depend on how many parent pickup, that I would like to have all parent pickup at JFK because we have that loop. But we do need to look at how many vehicle we can fit. Right now, we fit about 40 cars without any problems.
Christina, a question again for Millville is, are there currently any mixed grade classes in Millville?
This year, there are not any mixed grade classrooms. With students being remote, it did some of the students, well, all the remote students, except for K, are actually with complex teachers. And so that lowered the numbers a little bit for the classroom. So there are no mixed grade classrooms this year.
Another question came in about specials, and I know we had discussed at the last meeting that, again, we want to make sure that we're, it's equitable amongst all schools when it comes to specials. So one of the questions was there a mention of specials being weekly? And do we plan on hiring more staff for that to happen? Or will we still be having some specialists go between buildings? And again, I know it's kind of early, we're just presenting the model, but that was one of the questions.
So we looked at certain things. We are looking at trying to free up our reading specialists and potentially some others. So we are looking at, Jenny and I both proposed for the budget, STEM specialists, so that we can provide STEM learning for the students, as well as also even out the technology piece. So that was one thing. And obviously, once we look at numbers and staffing, we will be able to iron out where all the specialists will need to be and the days that they'll need to be.
So I can speak for next year because second grade we will remain in the complex. So for next year, complex will still have more classes than Millville. So yes, we have a couple of specialists might need to continue to travel between two buildings. But the following year, those classes will be pretty balanced, the number of classes.
I know the last time we started talking about class numbers, class sizes, and Christina, I just had asked you a question, are there any mixed classes in Millville? So there was a follow-up question to that what are the chances of mixed classes now that both towns are going, to MES for certain grades? And will there be more staff hired to avoid this? I know we talked a little bit about this, class sizes and how this would work, but I guess the question is, would there be a possibility of us requiring mixed classes?
I would say with our numbers for next year that we've already looked at, that we shouldn't need to mix any classes. And with our current staffing, we're looking at those numbers Dr. Remke shared earlier with about 21 to 24 students in a class, dependent upon the grade level. So we should not need any mixed grade classrooms.
And Jenny, I'm assuming it wasn't asked, but at the complex, we aren't anticipating any mixed grade levels. Okay. I don't see any new questions right now. We can give it another minute, but. Well, I guess while we're waiting for questions, we can also talk a little bit about one of the things that we've done as a district to become a district of one is, we had the research, we looked into a new literacy program, and that is being implemented across all grade levels. At all both buildings, it doesn't matter what grade level you're on. And I know we are looking to see if math would come next. So, even if we have certain grade levels at one school and the other, our programs will still be consistent across both elementary schools.
And I do know, to your point, Jill, that we are we just put together the math curriculum committee to evaluate curriculum materials and look to see what it is that we're hoping to do for that pre-K through 12 continuity in math.
A question came in about a special, and they specifically asked about a STEM class, but maybe this is also a good time to review the specials that we have for kids now and also kind of give an explanation of what the STEM class would look like or what we'd be focusing on.
So currently in Millville, we have, I have to go through my head. So they have PE in fifth grade and health. We also have PE, so we have PE in every other subject. Some grades get certain specials once or twice a week, depending on what we have for staff availability. We also have library and art every other week, and guidance every week, which is our school adjustment counselors go in the classroom and teach Choose Love, and technology every week. And then, Dr. Umka, do you want to talk about?
It's pretty much the same. The only thing is technology is not every week. Other than that, music and art, they rotate every other week. And library and fifth grade have phys ed and health.
And for STEM, so the STEM person would also, ideally have a technology experience as well. So they would be able to support technology as well as continue to support the science that the students are using in the classroom. We're currently using STEM scopes. That was something we adopted last year. And also, actually, our pre-K is piloting STEM scopes starting in January. So we will have the STEM scopes version at pre-K all the way up through 5 at the elementary level. And we are hoping that, the STEM specialists can also help with the technology and engineering pieces that are seen on MCAS. So it'll help with that, as well as the science, supporting the science program that we have currently.
Another question that kind of goes along that with all the specials is makerspace in Blackstone. It seems like that's something that someone asked if that's continuing. Is that something that's going to be expanded? If the kids regionalize, if we go to the different levels, is that something that would be expanded to Millville?
So makerspace is not happening this year due to the current situation. But that's why when we discuss about personnel adding positions to our budget, we requested 2 STEM teachers. So if we get those, positions approved, they will be teaching, combination of technology and science and engineering. So makerspace would be part of that.
Hi, folks. Sorry for the delay. I just coming in from a school committee meeting. Nice to see everybody tonight.
Just going to take a look. I don't see any new questions right now.
Did we probably already did, but did we remind folks of the public hearing with the school committee Thursday night? Excellent. Okay. At 6 p.m., followed by a school committee meeting shortly, or whenever the public hearing wraps up.
We did. And Matt had mentioned that right now the Board of Health was recommending the remote meeting. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? I think folks have been on since 5:30. We certainly don't want to keep everybody if there's no additional questions. Nothing popping in there, Jill?
No, we've talked about the drop off and pickup. Talked about the transportation, the delayed start times and end times. We talked a little bit about some of the topics we talked the last time. That we are working together, both elementary schools and principals are working together now to make sure everything's in place for those transitions. Our ILTs are working together. We talked a little bit about the specials. Talked that they're mixed classrooms. One of the questions was, what are the possibilities of mixed classrooms having to come back? But there was a review of the numbers again and what that would look like for next year.
Sounds like you covered a lot of ground.
And we also talked about how our students in K and the students that we have from either Blackstone or Millville in the other school mixed together already, and you wouldn't even notice that they're, you wouldn't know who's in what town.
Mhm. Yeah, and we mentioned the fact that, our K really enjoys being there and being able to communicate with our preschool teachers, as well as, I think, our Millville teachers, because we did talk about that there was a survey, and that, of course, there was some hesitancy having to move all the stuff again, but teachers were very much on board with, being able to work, together collaboratively as a grade level, especially where right now in Millville, we have singleton grade level teachers. So it'll be nice that they'll be able to be together. I do not see any new questions in the chat right now.
If there's nothing else, then we can certainly wrap up. We don't want to keep people any longer than we need to, but want to make sure that everyone has their voice heard and has an opportunity to ask questions or share thoughts and suggestions. But if that has already taken place, I think then we can wrap up. That's fine. I guess the only piece I would end on is just, again, to remind everybody, Thursday night, 6 p.m., there will be a public forum. Reach out to your school committee folks, or to myself, Matt, or Jill, Jenny, Christina, for the link. We can send that to you. But please make sure, you have an opportunity to have your voice heard Thursday evening at 6 p.m. And we'll be streaming it. I believe it's a live stream piece that Jesse's putting together. So if you don't have Facebook, I think we'll be able to stream it in other places so people can see it there.
I think one last final thing, a good way to end this is the final question, just to kind of summarize. I know we discussed this before, but kind of just presenting the model one last time. Someone had just asked, how are the grades being distributed in the building? They might have missed the beginning of this, so it might be kind of a good way to wrap it up, to just kind of give another little summary of what's, being proposed.
Sure. So I don't know, do one of you want to grab this, or I don't know who explained it the last time. I'm happy to take the reins here.
You can do Dr. DeFalco. I think you do a better job than you do.
She did an excellent job, Dr. DeFalco.
I doubt it. So so quickly, we're looking to have Millville, over the span of 2 years, become essentially an early childhood center focused school with pre-K, first and second grade. In the complex, become a elementary school, just grades 3 through 5. However, it will take us 2 years to get there. Next year, our current kindergartners at Millville will be our first grade class. So next year, Millville would have pre-K, K and 1, and we would have all the second graders at the complex with our third, fourth, and fifth graders. That would move over from MES. And then the second year, our second graders would turn into our third graders at the complex. So you would have grades 3, 4, and 5 only. And at MES, our first graders would become our second graders, and we'd backfill those kids. So we would have a full complement of pre-K, K, 1, and 2, and a complement of grades 3, 4, and 5 at the complex. So it would be a 2-year transition.
And that's our next step. Where exactly in the building they'll be is something that will come after that. I know that was a question, but right now we're going to be presenting the model, and if that is something that is approved, we'd be taking the next steps and working out all the details.
And Dr. Remke mentioned earlier the rationale behind taking the phased-in approach, Dr. DeFalco, and she mentioned, in case new people are joining us, that we didn't want to move the first graders over to Millville for second grade and then bounce them back the following year for third grade, because that would be a lot of disruption for the students, and that's really not in their best interest.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anything else, Ms. PG, as you're scanning through the questions there?
No new questions have been sent over to me.
Okay. All right, then with that, we'll wrap up, and we hope to hear and see from folks again on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe. I think we got a big snowstorm coming, so get out your snow blowers and your shovels and your snowsuits and your sleds.